Thanks so much to all my patrons. Join now to help support the channel and help pick the books that I review. Link in the description. And I am done. Okay, so I just got done listening to The Titan of Baleros. This is book 11, I think, of The Wandering Inn, and I want to give you my unedited thoughts upon finishing this book, which was literally just right now. So I really like this one. I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5. Couldn't quite reach the peaks of some of the other Wandering Inn stories, but definitely not, one of the weakest ones either. Right, kind of in the middle of, well, a little lower than normal, because I normally give them 5 out of 5 out of 5s, but had a few problems here that I normally don't see, but overall, a very enjoyable experience. Now, I don't know how I would think about this book if I read it on the website, which is where you're supposed to read these things, because they're free on the website, but I listened to the audiobook, and so it's always hard for me to divorce audiobook narration from the book itself. The audiobook narrator can raise or decrease my enjoyment out of a book. And 𝐒𝐨𝐻𝐼𝑒's audiobook performances in these books most certainly elevate my opinions of things. So hopefully I'm being unbiased, and I would give it a 4 out of 5 no matter what, and I'm able to see through it. I feel like that's what I am, but oh my God, 𝐒𝐿𝐻𝐼𝑒 she's just one of the greatest audiobook narrators of all time. I certainly, without a doubt, the best woman audiobook narrator that I've ever listened to. She's incredible, and her range and voice, the ability for her to do both masculine and feminine voices, it feels unhuman. The way that she's able to pull out different cultures and different species. She does this voice for these like ant-like creatures, the Antinium, and it's incredible. It feels like you're listening to an ant talk, and I don't know what an ant sounds like, but that's certainly what it sounds like. And she's so good that you can tell while she uses this ant noise, which it's like clicking noises. It's bizarre. It feels so incredible that it's like somebody clearly ran this through a computer program, because how could a human make these noises? But she's so good that you can tell which Antinium is talking based on the different way they do the clicks and tones, and it's wild. It's truly wild. So yeah, pick up the audiobook for this. And honestly, even if you don't like this series, I feel like you could still get enjoyment just out of how good the audiobook is. Now, I suspect that you'll probably like this because it's a great series. It's one of my all-time favorites, and hopefully it is one of yours as well. I suspect most people watching this have probably already read these books. Can't imagine there's a lot of people watching 11 of my reviews on the series without ever reading the series, but who knows? But yeah, this series is great. But a couple times in a row now, it's the first time I've ever given 2 books in a row in the series under 5 stars. 2 books ago, I forgot the name of the book. I gave 4 stars, now 4.5. So what happened? I feel like what's happening here is pirateaba, the author of the series, is evolving as an author. And adding, at this point, I feel like this author is getting to, I don't know about peak, but the steady rhythm of writing extremely long chapters that go on for, many, 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 many dozens of pages each. And they come out twice a week or something like that, which is wild. But also making huge arcs. What you call them? Volumes. Now volumes. So the way the series comes out, this is a web serial, and it comes out, I think, a couple times a week. Maybe I'm wrong. But not every week of the year, most weeks out of the year. But it's incredible, the volume that comes out, because it's the most words for any fantasy series of all time, I believe, and it's growing at a insane rate still. But you read these chapters, and each chapter feels like its own little story. You get some. They're always tied to other stories here, but there's a beginning, middle, and an end. It's great. It's the best chapter format that I've ever read, because really you can read one chapter and feel satisfaction. It's a great feeling. But also these chapters tie into greater volumes. Now think of the volumes as books in a series, but instead of a book, think of them I don't know, 5,000 pages long or something like that, maybe longer. Probably longer. Somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 pages long. Maybe 5,000 to 7,500. And the volumes have a beginning, middle, and end. And right now, I'm getting towards, I think, the middle of the volume. I got to the end of a volume previously, and it was just wild. It was so impactful. These huge moments were happening, and there were a couple of my favorite books in the series were the ending books in the previous volume. Now, this volume's starting up. It slows things down. You get down to this very, I don't know how, best way to put it, but it's like that homey feel, like a nice, warm, fuzzy story that's all about character development. And not a ton of plot is moving forward because it's slowly setting up the pieces. Now, the characters are so great here that it's wonderful being able to go through this, but it's hard to read this book and not compare it to some of the explosive books with these huge moments happening that are just clearly better. But is the writing better? No. It's just like the last book in a series, if everything was teed up correctly, should be much better than the books preceding it because so much went into that book that finally the payoff begins to happen. So, yeah, is it a worse book? No, but did I enjoy it less? Yes. But so yeah, that's my overall thoughts about this. Let's delve into some spoilers, because I think a lot of people watching these want to talk about those. And to be honest with you, this book took me so long to read. I've been going through my audiobooks a little bit slowly because I've been reading more and doing less audiobook. So it took me like a full month to read this. So I'm probably going to be away from some of the plot points here because it was like a month ago. But there were two major events that happened in this story that a lot of the plot surrounded. The first was the games. And these were the games that were happening in Baleros, and where this battle university of these students that are learning from like the greatest battle tactician in the world, this really tiny little frailing that is a genius and the greatest like battle commander, but he's like truly like it has no physical skill because he's like a mouse. And all these students are going to this school to become like the world's greatest tacticians, and it's extremely like the most prestigious thing in the world. And so you follow some of these students, particularly some close friends that are in this class, and it's fun. I love learning about these different continents. There's so much flavor that goes into these stories that every time we get to leave the main core group and we get to go off and see more of the world, and you get to fill in the blanks, and I love the painting of the world that occurs here. So that's really enjoyable. But then the games start, and essentially what happens here is 𝐒𝐻 the Titan declares that there's going to be the yearly games where he invents some bizarre thing that the kids have to do. And if anybody's able to complete it, they're the champion. And it's rare that there's a champion because of how hard it is. Now, in this game, because of the technology that's kind of gone around, because of the people from Earth that have kind of come over and shown different technology, and people are finally catching on to the fact that you can broadcast things via like magical balls. And so this one's being broadcast around the world. So everybody's watching it. There's announcers. It's got this fun, like, connection to, like, a World Series, but in this magical universe. Now, the games here that occurred was simple, that you had to get inside of this circle, no matter what. But the person stopping you from getting inside this circle was, like, this incredibly strong previous champion student of 𝐒𝐻's that is like a titan, truly like a titan, not the Titan of Baleros, which is the name of this, but like enormous in stature. And he brings like this whole army with him to stop these kids from getting in. And it's so fun reading about the chaotic nature of this, getting the connection between these students and this kid that is from not the Forgotten Men Company, from the, what are they called? The United Nations Company, who is like this rower. That's his class. He's like a courier rower. And being able to have him come in, help them try to figure out how to get through this, and then ended up seeing who the winner was, which was a girl that essentially dug through an outhouse type thing to dig literally underneath it full of like excrement. Great stuff. Great ending. And I love how happy and proud 𝐒𝐻 is of this girl for coming up with this solution that had no battle prowess to it at all. It's good stuff. So yeah, loved it. 5 out of 5 on that end. Now, the part that dragged down the book a little bit was the other major plot line, which was the election. the elections in 𝐒𝐮𝐲. These are the chapters that centered more around Aaron and brought things back home, and did some connections to the other cities that were connected via portal, but we're all about the election. And, I find pirateaba to be the weakest when the author is trying to mimic something from our world and bring it over there, where it feels novel to these people in this story, but it's not novel for us. You see this happening quite often when Aaron comes up with a new thing to bake, where everybody's all hyped up around pizza, and we get to talk about that. In the previous book, there were these a couple chapters talking about a baseball game they were going to play, where Aaron taught everybody how to play baseball. Usually all these surround Aaron as the one that bringing these over, and this time it's elections, and we are going to see our view of elections being brought over in 𝐿IScor style. Now, I get why pirateaba does this. pirateaba writes so much that obviously some inspiration is going to need to come, and that's an easy thing to write off, right? But I didn't love the campaign politics side of things. Now, perhaps that's because I am a campaign politics person. That's my life. So to see this kind of dumbed down version of it felt like it was hard to enjoy, right? And like, if you were... Think about something that you're like an expert in. Now, I'm not going to claim I'm an expert in much in life, but when it comes to politics and specifically campaigning, that's my jam. And think about something you're an expert in, right? And if you were to read a story that did like the very small basics of what you're an expert in, you'd kind of be like, you'd be yawning, right? And so that's kind of what I was going through. Was it bad writing? No. Was it for Matt? Also, no. And that's okay. We'll move on. Because what pirateaba is very good at is hammering home these storylines, but then moving on. And we don't really have to go back to them anymore. It keeps moving forward. And I appreciate that. I greatly appreciate that. So we don't, I don't have to like be having these looming chapters coming forward, because I know we're going to get through it. So that's great. So where are things going from here? I am excited. I'm very excited to keep going in the series, because what I feel like we're going to get is stuff going down with the Antinium. There was part of the elections in 𝐿IScor. There was the side storyline with the Antinium about them. And a lot of the election is about the Antinium, because it's the central political question is, should we involve the Antinium in building new walls, or should we hire local labor to build the new walls? Again, kind of a dumbed down version of things that occur in the greater sphere. Didn't love it, but that's the Antinium's role here. But we're marching towards the Antinium having some major impact in this story. What's it going to be? Are the Antinium going to go to war with people that we love? That would be traumatic, and I'm here for it. I'd love it. Antinium versus 𝐿IScor would be great. So top tier. I don't know that pirateaba is willing to go that far, but we possibly also can get 𝐿IScor's mission that we found out about in some conversations that the Free Queen had with was it 𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐿 or somebody else? I don't know who it was. But the Free Queen essentially listed out what their mission is. And it was a great little sequence where the Free Queen was trying to quiz some of the workers to find out whether they are true Antinium or not. And in that discussion, she explains to them what the mission of the Antinium is. Now, I don't remember it now, but essentially it's go back to where we came from and wreak havoc. Just kill everybody that wronged us. Are we going to get that story? Because that sounds dope too. I'm here for it. I want more Antinium. I want their storyline to progress to its inevitable conclusion, whatever that is. I don't want to be rid of them, but let's move forward now, okay? But we're getting there, and I'm excited. I want to see more world-level threats. I certainly am looking forward to seeing where the Floss storyline goes. But I've had enough of the good guys. I want to see the bad guys, right? I want to see these terrifying aspects of the story come together. I want to see global threats. Bring it to me. I don't want continental threats. I want a global threat. And if that happens, I hope that happens. The series is going to go down. It's going to shoot even further up my favorite series list, because that's like the one thing I'm hoping the series does that it hasn't quite got there yet. So I'm signed up though, but I think we're marching. I think we're getting closer. I don't know what it's going to be, but I feel like Matt's going to be happy. So we'll see. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Amy, Alex P, Anna G, Doused, Darren, JD, Jerry, Jonathan, Nev's Book Channel, 𝗏𝘗𝑇𝑖𝐴, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Sydney Baker, Slay, Tahir, Anna, Alfredo, Blair, Bevan, Eric Cannon, Joe UK, Kat Mick, Michael Sugarman, Ricky Iman, and Sky. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video, and if you want to watch some more content from my channel, click over here and I've got some good videos for you. Thanks so much.